everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and you're gonna be a better person after watching this video. Millionaire can't get enough money, makes 90-year-old woman cry, sues sister, kicks mum out of her house. EP is entitled person, landlady and owner of the house. M is her 90-year-old mum. Introduction. This story happened 2.5 years ago. I was a chemistry student from Europe and got the chance to do my master thesis at University of Toronto. I finished all the mandatory courses and exams back in Europe, so it was just the experiments and writing the thesis itself, no courses or anything, which is why I didn't have to pay any tuition. This also meant that I didn't qualify for campus living and dorms etc, so I had to organise my own accommodation. This turned out to be more difficult than I thought, because I couldn't just fly to North America to visit the apartment and the owners couldn't get to know me in person before deciding whether I should move in or not, so most of them declined. After a long time of searching, I found something on Craigslist and the owners offered to have a Skype meeting and a virtual house tour beforehand. They told me I would share the house with a few other students and or young professionals and that they, EP and her husband would live there too. I was just happy to have found something and it looked cool, so I accepted and we arranged the paperwork via email and worked out a way to pay rent. I obviously didn't have a Canadian bank account. So far so good, they seemed extremely nice and forthcoming. The story begins. On the day I arrived in Toronto, entitled person in her late 40s, early 50s, showed me around the house and told me that if I needed something I should just let her know. Oh, and by the way, my mum moved in here a few days ago. After 16 hours travel time and 4 hours in the Canadian Immigration Office, long wait, I didn't pay no heed to what she said and why her mum could potentially be moving in with her daughter and just went to bed. Next morning, I was walking into the kitchen and saw a 90-year-old woman watching TV, greeted her, she waved nicely and I went grocery shopping. When I got back, crap started to go down and the whole story began to unravel. I got back from getting groceries and the same 90-year-old woman was sitting in the kitchen, crying. Entitled person was yelling at her from the top of her lungs in Italian about mortgage and selling property and suing her sister. Here's some background info. I am German of Italian descent, so I understood what they were fighting about without them knowing that I understood. After I entered the kitchen where the argument took place, it fell into an awkward silence, and after a few seconds, entitled person switched gears and went back to being 100% super nice and caring landlady, who was super interested in how I settled in and stuff. Fake witch. We had some forced small talk, I stowed my groceries away as fast as I could and immediately went back to my room in the basement, which was unfortunately located directly beneath the kitchen. The fight continued in an immense volume. I could understand literally every single word, even with my headphones on. This continued for a few days. Every time I walked into the kitchen, there was a crying old lady, and I felt super uncomfortable. The worst thing was that after a while, entitled parent lost her restraint and she just yelled at her mum from the top of her lungs while I was cooking in the same room, trying to get her to disinherit her sister, so I learnt every detail. Here's the situation. 90-year-old mum owned a lot of land and property in Toronto for many years. The land value had obviously increased significantly over the past 60-ish years in the land of Toronto and she distributed all her wealth when she said that she didn't need all of that money anymore. Entitled person and her sister could have all of it. They split it evenly and as it turned out, entitled person's sister managed to sell one property for way more money than they thought it was worth. Entitled person said that the wealth was now not distributed evenly anymore. Here's what she said. I try to quote, but I have to translate obviously. Entitled person. Mama, your will is not heeded. Your daughter is cheating on you and me. She tries to run off with all the money and leave me with nothing. Now look at me. I am caring for you all this time. I give you a place to stay and what do you give me? If you want peace, then disinherit her and give everything to me. She is a cheating, lying witch. This horrible person called her own sister all sorts of things. I learned quite a few new Italian curses during that time and threatened her mother to kick her out of the house if she didn't comply and side with her treacherous sister. Conclusion. This continued for many days and I finally spoke up to entitled person, telling her to shut the F up and treat her mother with respect. I never did something more satisfying in my life. Entitled person was not happy, duh, but her husband, who was also an a-hole, at least backed me up in having her stop fighting in front of me and the other students living there. Eventually entitled person sued her sister and lost the case. Because her mother didn't side with entitled person, but with entitled person's sister. Entitled person's mother was then kicked out of the house and proceeded to live with their other daughter again. During that time, I learnt a lot of details about the case from phone calls that entitled person had with her lawyer. For example, that when entitled person's mum distributed her property between her two daughters, entitled person was gifted a translated value of 25 million. But apparently this is not enough if your sister gets 30 million. Also, entitled person's sister refused to take in her mother after the case and she tried to move her into a retirement home. Both disgusting people. Entitled person completely ignored me from then on and the house was quieter. When I moved out and got my deposit back, I talked to them in fluent Italian, showing them that I understood everything. I played it extremely polite and left with the words, I hope you're happy. I smiled, walked out of the door, got into the Uber and left for the airport. Anyway, what I'm trying to convey here is that I hope that everyone reading this will never turn on their family in their greed. This was disgusting to witness, and it opened up a new low in my usually already quite misanthropic view. I never felt so much spite in my life. With all of her money, not only does she do nothing for other people in need, she actively makes life worse for others. Even the person who made her rich in the first place, her own mother. I like to quote Toni Morrison here. Just remember that your real job is that if you're free, you need to free somebody else. If you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else. This is not just a grab bag candy game. Thank you for reading. It helped me getting some frustration that I was carrying with me for quite some time now off of my chest. I feel so sorry for that poor woman, raising 2 daughters, making them millionaires, and they won't even take care of you. Neighbours steal our cat because it loves them. The cat has other ideas. I made this post originally on Entitled Witch, but I felt it might fit in here as well, so please allow me to take it away. So, it's a bit of a long one. I'm still working on my writing, so apologies if it's a bit naff. I think the story fits here. Please let me know if there's any other subs this could fit on. This story is from about 3 years ago, but I still remember most of it because the neighbours are still there, and frankly, you try and steal my cat, I ain't forgetting. So a bit of backstory. My family own 2 cats, Ariel and Vincent. Ariel is pretty much a princess, dainty, and demands to be treated like royalty, but she stays in the house most of the time, except sometimes wanders around the garden. Vincent, however, is a complete git. He is willing to be pet when it suits him or serves to benefit him, mostly to getting food, and for a time was a wanderer, not so much now. I should explain, we allow our cats to free roam because we live in the suburbs in the UK, away from a main road and with a fairly big garden. While my cats do have freedom to roam, they rarely leave the garden, especially after the incident below, and are pretty much house cats by choice from September to March. Anyway, on with the tale. In around 2016, Vincent went off on a wander. Every so often he would be gone for a couple of days. Fair enough, he's a cat in his prime, he wants to investigate. But then, he goes missing for longer lengths of time, maybe a week or so. It is pertinent to mention, Vincent had a black collar, and a sturdy one as well. He was not getting it off on his own. One day, he comes home with a purple collar on. I think you can tell from here, we did not put it on. Someone had been taking him in. So Dad, I am a live-at-home student, put a new collar on him, with a note attached in a little vial giving his name and our address and phone numbers. Vincent went back on the prowl and a few days later returns with another purple collar. So Dad repeats the process, just in case the vial fell off, giving whoever was claiming Vincent a chance to say hi. I think you can guess what happened. So Dad had a philosophy. If the cat wants to live somewhere it deems is better, he will let the cat do that, but not without a fight, especially if the new owners are being jerks about it. So what else are we to do but pamper that little furball? Unfortunately, he gets bored of his lifestyle and buggers off again, for 3 months. We occasionally see him as he is evidently being let out, and he sees us as a second home, but what is horrible to see is he's losing weight. I assume because he's been giving milk, forcing him to vomit because he's lactose intolerant, and his fur is falling out because he has seriously bad fleas. He's also acting up, begging for food constantly, and acting like a bigger jerk than before. Now, we do what we can, but because Vincent wants to spend as much time as possible with the neighbours, we can't really do much. If we went to get the cat box out to get him to the vet, he would scarper. Until one day after 3 months, we get a call from our vet, who are worried to see Vincent in the state he is, and that Dad would never let this happen. Turns out that his new owners didn't want to deal with him anymore, so they just happened to say they found him and scarpered after fussing him, and Vincent obviously knowing who they were. Dad, being a mature adult, paid for the vet bills, really not much, just a flea treatment and a checkup. About 2 days later, they knocked on our door to explain themselves. Trust me, I'm as surprised as you are. It turns out the neighbours love cats, and when they found Vincent they had to have him, but didn't want to pay any vet bills or treatments. So what they did after he started showing signs of neglect was buy a new kitten, and bung Vincent back on Dad to pay the vet bills. But they love Vincent, and he loves them apparently. So seemingly through divine intervention, Mr. Vincent walks down our street, and Dad notices and says hello to him. The neighbours are going, "Kitty, kitty," and generally trying to get Vincent's love, but then Vincent immediately ignores them, runs straight through their legs and comes inside. 3 years on, Vincent is very nearly a house cat, is a professional sleeper, napper and snoozer, and apart from being a douche, is fine. He has never gone back to the neighbours. He obviously realises they were killing him and knew he wasn't wanted after they got the kitten. Entitled neighbour constantly blocks my driveway. Obligatory on mobile, sorry if the formatting is wonky. So to begin, I live on a straight street with a lot of parking. There's even a park at the end that offers even more parking. I will admit that on the weekends it does get a little cramped with people bringing their kids, so normally I'll forgive this neighbour EN for parking a little bit over the curb or something of that nature. However, at least once a week he parks completely in front of my driveway, and there's no way for me to get out without hitting his truck. Normally I'm not in a rush and will just go knock on his door and politely ask him to move it. He always does, but he normally huffs and puffs and acts like I'm the one inconveniencing him instead of vice versa. Definitely annoying, but I usually give myself a big gap so I'm never late to anything. Today though, I had quite a few things go wrong before leaving for my grandmother's birthday, so I was very short on time. And I leave the house to see him parked right in front of my driveway. Needless to say, I'm not very happy about this at all and go to his house and try and be as polite as I normally am during these interactions. But apparently I've caught him in the middle of a fight with his wife. He opens the door and this conversation ensues. Hi, I'm sorry to bother you, but you're parked in front of my driveway again and I really need to get out. I really don't have time for this today. I'll move it when I'm able, but it's not going to be anytime soon. Normally that would be fine, but today I really need to leave. That's not my problem. Sorry. And proceeded to shut the door in my face. So I shouted, fine then, it's not my problem that your car is about to get towed once I call this in. That got him to move real fast and move his car right away. Guess screaming at his wife wasn't that important in the end. Still super frustrating though. Okay, so that's all for r/entitled people. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!